Welcome, everybody, to This, That, and the Other. I'm your host, Magic, and we're joined today by Nitros, who's been a member of our What If Sports Gridiron Dynasty family since December of '07. He has 4 national championships, 40 conference championships, and is a couple wins shy of a 80% winning percentage. He's got over 1,600 wins. So, Nitros, welcome to the show.
Hey, Magic. Nice to have me on. Thank you for hosting it. We always love content in the What If sports world, man.
I tell you, it's been a blast. I'm just enjoying the fact that people are enjoying the podcast. So look forward to doing them for quite some time. Let's go ahead and get your segment started with the first question, and that is, how did you find out about the What If Sports website?
Yeah, I guess it would have been 2007, and, I love fantasy baseball, and I love simulated sports, and it was literally a Google search, and came across it, started it, and then, what keeps a person around is not finding it, because it can be daunting, but it's finding a good coach to mentor you. And my original mentor was Slider, who's back in the first engine or second engine. Is one of the greatest coaches of all time. Just a great guy. So he showed me the ropes. I adopted his system, and that's what kept me hanging around.
Well, to make it more interesting for those people joining now, what's the biggest change you'd like to see in Gridiron Dynasty?
Well, for Division I, I would certainly like to see a change in the elite process. It is almost impossible, unless you're an exceptional coach in an exceptional situation, to take certain teams and win the national championship at Division I. Period. End of story. Some of the greatest coaches I've ever known have tried it, and they've not been successful. So if you take 20% of the teams out of the entire equation of potentially competing, not even winning a national championship, to me that means that system is broken. With regard to, the other divisions, I think there's much more parity. I think what I would do there are more minor tweaks, more red shirts, bring back injuries to create the realism a bit more, and expand the rosters. I would not change the recruiting engine. The recruiting engine is very, very, very good. I play a lot of simulated sports games and you name it, and I have yet to find a better recruiting system. I really think it's good. I think people don't appreciate how good our recruiting system is. Yeah, so to recap, at Division I, you have to change how the elites relate to the rest of the world, and then in the rest of the divisions, it would be more of an expanding the roster, bring back injuries for me to create more realism, and allow more red shirts.
Well, you mentioned bring back injuries, and I played when injuries were a factor. And to me, I'm kind of torn whether I'd like to see that come back or not. But that led to one of my heartbreak moments in GD when I had a quarterback go down. And that's our next question for you is, have you had that heartbreaking GD moment yet? And if so, what was it?
Yeah, well, my heartbreaking moments are more the games, right? Being outwitted by a coach. And I actually enjoy that a lot. And this may sound weird, but I really enjoy losing games. The type of offense I run, if run correctly and I pay attention, there's maybe a handful of coaches that can out-coach the system I run. And that's no ego for me at all. I actually adopted the system from a coach called Lions Fan. So when someone outfoxes me, I get a ton of enjoyment out of it, but it's also heartbreaking to lose that 3-point game in the national championship. So that's my heartbreaking moment. But on the other hand, I find it quite enjoyable to go back and see how that coach outfoxed me.
Well, that's going to bring your first segment to a close. Don't go away. We'll be right back after this.
At Gennaro_Rage wrote on Twitter, I just saved 252 pounds on my car insurance at Money Supermarket, and now I feel hashtag epic. So much so, I put a real penguin in my packed lunch. Before the animal rights people get all uppity, I'm sure Gennaro is exaggerating. It was probably just a pigeon. Tweet how much you saved and feel hashtag epic. You're so Money Supermarket.
They've done it again with Glim, their new concentrated liquid that cuts dishwashing time in half. Gives you sparkling dishes and glasses without wiping.
Glim makes dishwashing easier, faster than ever. For Glim gives you greaseless dishwashing. Glim dissolves grease instantly, completely. There's no grease film on the water, no grease left on dishes, no grease ring around the sink or dishpan. You get greaseless dishwashing even in the hardest water.
Here's all you do. Simply take the cap off the Glim bottle, fill it, then pour into empty dishpan or sink. Turn water on full force and wash your dishes in billowing suds. Rinse them and wrap. They'll dry sparkling bright.
Glim saves you money over soaps or powders. It's concentrated. In fact, you use so little that a single bottle gives you 50 dishwashing.
And Glim is as kind to hands as beauty soap.
Try it. Today at your grocer's, get the bottle with the bright red label that says Glim, Glim.
And welcome back, listeners. We're joined today by Nitros, and he's going to start his second segment of this episode with a little background about himself, who he is, where he's from, anything he's willing to share. Nitros?
Yeah, so I grew up on a ranch in Oklahoma and went to Oklahoma State. I went to law school at Oklahoma University. I joined the Army before I did either one of those, however. I joined the Army when I was 17. I've served in a war. And now I'm an attorney by profession. I do real estate commercial transactions, and that's what I do for a living. I've made a good living with it. I have a beautiful family, 3 daughters, a wife. We've been married 27 years.
Well, thanks for your service from one vet to another.
Well, thank you for your service. I believe service to our country is our highest calling.
And let's go ahead and get your next question then. Which of these levels is your favorite?
Yeah, D1 AA, and for me, it's not close.
So what sets it apart from the other levels that makes you enjoy that one so much more?
Well, to begin with, you have to begin with parity. Can I pick any team on the board and potentially win a national championship? In my opinion, the answer is yes. The second thing you have to look at is it intellectually stimulating? You know, will it keep me engaged, and am I getting $10 worth of enjoyment out of a season? In a populated world like Wilkinson, the answer is definitively yes. The dynamics of recruiting, you don't want to recruit too high or you're going to get poached. You can't recruit too low or you won't have the talent to compete. And then also the tournament schedule at the end certainly will, if you're not on your toes, you can get steamrolled.
That's true.
So for me, in a populated world, Division 1AA is absolutely the hardest level to compete at, and I enjoy competing at the highest level if I can.
We'll go ahead and do one of those plugs and mention the fact that you've got Wiki Talks on Podbean, and I believe that focuses on the D1AA Big Sky Conference. Am I correct?
Yeah, so I got bored one day and invited all my good friends to come join me in a conference. I wanted to form a super conference in an environment where everyone would have parity, and I was just lucky enough to get some of the greatest coaches I've known and, frankly, some of the great people in the game. I will say the first year I didn't even make the playoffs, so I kind of got my hat handed to me. So it has been and will be a fun time.
It seems like you've actually started a trend where some of these super conferences are starting to sprout up, not just in Wilkinson, but I'm sure in other conferences or other worlds.
Well, I think we all want to get the entertainment value for our $10. And I will tell you, for some people, it's, listen, I want to play at Division III, I want a sparsely populated world, and I get enjoyment from building a super team and seeing how long I can make it last. That's fine. I'm not judging that. For me, I want to play at all times against the highest possible competition in the harshest environment, and that makes me pay attention. So, to each their own. In this instance, I think we've done a good job, and I really enjoy seeing a bunch of people flock to that world, and we should have a great time.
Well, congrats on getting that started. It seems to be a big hit. Let's go ahead and get back to the questions on the board, and the next one for you is, which is more important in your running backs, speed or elusiveness, and why?
Well, in my offense I run what's called an isolation offense, and that's a fancy name to mean that I only run 2 plays each game. I have a money play and a rest play. So if my money play is an outside run, all I want is speed and elusiveness. Nothing else matters in that running back. That's a bit of an overstatement, but the highest priority is speed and elusiveness. If I am running the inside run as my money play, it will always be strength and elusiveness. And that's just what the engine tells me to look at. That's not my opinion or anything of that nature. The engine says, here is the analytical test at the line of scrimmage, and those are the 2 most important factors for each one of those run types.
What is your game planning like as far as your approach? Do you plan more for an offensive onslaught, or do you try to be more defensive-minded, or do you kind of blend a mixture of both?
Well, I always try to do 2 things, and my game planning is very, very simplistic. From my offensive side, I look and find which of these 7 defensive zones my opponent is the weakest in. For example, if they're weak in their interior line and inside linebacker, my money play will be the inside run, and I will run that play 70% of the time. From the defensive perspective, I simply want to take away their greatest asset to the best of my ability. If their greatest asset is the tight end, and that coach likes to throw to the tight end in the medium depth, then what I'm going to do is I'm going to align my defense to defend that one play. Then after that, if I'm playing a particularly good coach, I will switch on the offensive side. I'll change my money play to my second best zone matchup.
What is your school preference as far as a team that has a lot in one particular class, such as a heavy senior class, or one that is more balanced throughout all 4 classes?
Pete, by the way, Pete's one of the 5 greatest coaches I've ever had the privilege of coaching against and speaking to on the phone. Pete and J.D. Driscoll, another top 5 coach in my opinion, are the best recruiters in the game. And they both do the exact same thing. Not intentionally, I don't think. I don't think Pete taught J.D. Driscoll, but Pete certainly taught me. And Pete's system was simple. Have even classes and only play seniors and juniors. Redshirt seniors, or juniors, I should say. The entire idea is that FIQ plays such a huge role in the game that if you're playing sophomores or freshmen, your FIQ average will be too low to be competitive at the highest level. Only in rebuilds or extreme circumstances will I ever play a freshman or a sophomore. Now, in order to be consistent with that philosophy, that means I have to have an even class such that I'm evenly receiving that same type of talent in my senior and junior year.
It's a good look at it because, FIQ, a lot of people say it doesn't matter, and then you've got the other side of the aisle that says it matters greatly, and I'm in the belief that if it didn't matter, the powers that be at Gridiron Dynasty wouldn't have put it in the game. Yeah.
Well, you can go into so to answer the question whether it matters or not, we can answer that objectively, and it does. And the reason we know it does is because they say it does in the developer chat. What it does is it acts as a modifier, right? The debate is how much it modifies, right? Does it greatly influence a play, or does it not so much? The best way you can test this, and it's very simplistic, and it's the way I at least answered it in my own head, is take a team, take your regular team, the one you have consistency with, and in one season play a freshman kicker, and in another season play a senior kicker, and compare the results on kickoff returns. So if you have a fairly consistent team that you've had a long time, if you compare the kickoff return average with your freshman versus your senior, that will tell you how much FIQ on a percentage basis applies to any given game. And by the way, that's a rule of thumb. That's not in the developer chat. That was the method that I used to come up with the percentage modifier.
That'll work. We're going to go ahead and take a break right here. Come back and join us.
For a better life, try saying some yummy words. If you're feeling blue, try the fun and fizzy ones. Schnitzel, papyrus, echinacea, va-va-voom. If winter makes you crave a little warmth, roll the kitchen words around. Cardamom, ginger, pepper pot, spice. The dangerously alluring words are always fun, as sensual in your mouth as chocolate truffles. Kumquat, shimmer, redolent, dusk. And don't forget the penny words. Small and common. Thanks. Coffee. Hello. Love. Yummy words. Which one will you choose today?
In old Japan rode rickshaws everywhere. But when the kids sat down to eat, they sure did miss their favorite treat. Kool-Aid, Kool-Aid, tastes great. Wish we had some, can't wait. A story man who heard the kids then clapped his hands and said,
Hi, Kool-Aid keeps me very wise. Stand by, please, for a big surprise.
Kool-Aid, Kool-Aid, so great. Once you tried it, no can wait.
Honorable Kool-Aid, most refreshing, much loved by whole family. Father, mother, Japanese boy, Japanese girl, a package make 2 full quarts, cost only 20 yen, just 5 cents, with lots of ice, so nice.
The Kool-Aid kids are off again to visit other lands. Be sure to join them when they do.
Join them in some Kool-Aid too.
Kool-Aid, Kool-Aid, so great. Once you tried it, no can wait.
Well, as we were concluding segment 2 of your episode today, you mentioned kickoff and a kicker. That brings us to the question to start off your third segment, and is how do you determine where to set your field goal max? Is it the kicker's strength? Is it his technique? Or is it a combination of the two that's perfectly balanced somewhere in between?
Yeah, it's pure strength. The percentage of misses are so low that technique almost matters little. And FQ fights it so much that strength is really the only determining factor in my mind. In fact, I really don't even look at technique unless it's abnormally low when I recruit a kicker.
This question here is one that sometimes, people are reluctant to answer. But the question is, have you ever canceled or delayed a real-life event to focus on Gridiron Dynasty? And if so, what event did you cancel or delay?
Yeah. Well, when I'm hyper-focused in the game and I'm running my isolation offense against a particularly difficult opponent, I have canceled events, and I actually left a dance recital after my youngest daughter performed and went and sat in the car to game plan for the second half. So I didn't miss her dance, but I got some dirty looks from my wife for "you're doing what?" So.
Yeah. What's your best advice for new players?
For me, I like the numbers of the game. So if you just enjoy the game and find what you enjoy about the game, that's my best advice. A lot of people enjoy recruiting, and if they have a top-ranked recruit class, that makes their season, and they kind of put everything else on autopilot. For me, if you want to dive into the numbers, you need to understand the engine. And to understand the engine, you have to read all of the developer chats. So if you want to get serious about the game and compete at the highest level possible, you have to have a good game plan. Recruiting matters, but not as much as a good game plan. You can make up a lot of deficiencies in a good game plan. In order to have a good game plan, you have to understand the engine. In order to understand the engine, you have to read the developer chats. And then you have to be able to sift through noise versus news on the boards. Pick 4 or 5 coaches that you think they know what the heck they're talking about and pay attention to them. And then when you have questions, site mail them. The game is easy to learn but hard to master. And to me, that's a game that can hold my attention, that I can become competitive easily, but in order to win national championships against the best coaches, I have to master it. The other good thing is, listen, I've mastered the game, but if you lose your edge, you drop off quickly. So, for example, the last 4 or 5 seasons, I've just not been that competitive. And that's just a lack of focusing on the numbers and paying attention to my game plan. So even once you master it in your own mind, you have to continually tweak it. Otherwise, the other coaches, and make no mistake, they're tweaking their game plans. They will master you. So to recap, have fun with the game. Whatever that fun is, if it's recruiting, go do your thing. If you want to master the engine, you got to read the developer chats, and you have to find mentors. And I have to plug my mentor. Lions fan taught me the isolation offense, and he is one of the greatest coaches of all time, one of the greatest people of all times. So any success I've had is because of him.
Awesome. Okay, it's that time to pick your numbers for our next guest. Have you got 10 numbers ready for us?
10 numbers.
Between 1 and 50.
1, number 3, number 4, 9, 13, and lucky prime number 17, 40, 44, 48, 49.
All right, well, that's going to do it with the exception of your closing words of wisdom to our listening audience.
Yeah, so first off, create content. It doesn't take much to create content. It makes the game enjoyable. If you think you don't have something to say, I guarantee you people in the game would love to hear what you have to say about the game. Point number 1. Point number 2, go find competition. Don't shy away from it. Even if you get your butt kicked 10 times in a row, go back after it. There's nothing more enjoyable to me in the game of getting my butt kicked by a coach than overcoming it. And lastly, have fun. Figure out a way to get your enjoyment out of your $10 a season. Thanks a ton, Magic.
Man, we've appreciated having you on, Nitros. Great interview, and look forward to seeing you in the battlefields on Gridiron Dynasty. For our listening audience, we appreciate you tuning in today on This, That, and the Other. Come back next time.